But over on the other side of the street, welcome back, baby, to the poor side of town. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. There's still another promotion in the world besides the WWE. I know there's not a lot of oxygen in the air for one these days, but there are a couple things happening in AEW. All of them obviously outside the ring related. We're going to try, you're going to try to update me, first of all, on the releases that we've talked about on the Drive-Thru here a couple days ago. They released 10 people, most of whom they had not been using in any significant capacity in quite some time. And a couple of them have a problem on the internet. The Tate Twins, who were Dalton Castle's boys, they have come back at Tony, and I'm going to get you to try to explain this to me because I've seen part of it, and I've been a busy boy. But Tony said all the releases were due to budget cuts, and then somehow they asked him about the Tate Twins, and he said, well, the Tate Twins were no-show in our TV tapings. And then the Tate Twins say that they've been maligned and slandered and their reputation irretrievably damaged by being accused of this. But in their statement, they didn't actually deny that they had no-showed TVs. They just said that we were upset at Tony for saying it. What is going on here?
Tony Khan on the media call for Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor, as Kevin Sullivan calls it. The Supercard of Honor.
The Codfather, baby.
On the media call, here was a quote talking about the releases, about the boys. They didn't show up for work on more than one occasion.
No.
And it's not acceptable.
Well, there you go.
You agree with that, correct?
I agree with that.
Well, the boys put out a long missive over several.
Now, was this the boys in conjunction with each other? Is this one boy on behalf of the other boy?
Well, they're twins. You got to think that, one mind works for two.
Well, does one start the sentence and the other one finish it? Or how do they, how does that work? Or is one the person who writes and the other one the person who speaks? Or this is a joint missive?
I wish I had a joint. No, I think because they're twins, they can compete. They can communicate telepathically.
Well, what did they think to us then?
Well, here's their statement. The boys' statement, a joint statement from the boys. Trademark. If they are allowed to call themselves that still. Now, here's a note. We had planned to stay quiet publicly about our release to take nothing away from the biggest show of the year for Ring of Honor in Supercard, excuse me. Didn't even give the full name. Tonight, out of respect for the locker room that will be on it.
And by the way, nobody's talking about it. We kind of forgot they were going to have it, but apparently they had a Ring of Honor show this weekend also.
And just like AEW, this Tony Khan promotion, every time there's anything positive happening, they somehow find a way to make the story about the ineptness of the management. Due to Tony's comments and the numerous fans, media outlets, friends, and co-workers that have reached out to us, that isn't an option for us anymore. We want to apologize to the Ring of Honor fans and to the AEW fans that were invested in the storyline and were expecting both of us to be there. With so many fans wanting answers, in addition to numerous people that have voiced their comments at the thought of us really just no-showing on some of the biggest opportunities of our lives due to Tony Khan's statements, here it is. I lost something there. I don't know what they were trying.
Maybe they should have collaborated a little longer on the
yes,
on the presentation, but keep going.
Dave Meltzer was their proofreader. My brother and I were told that we would be included in this story through Supercard, and there were plans for us to be with John and Taya leading up to the show. We were asked to pitch several ideas for ourselves, insinuating we would get an opportunity to show that we can wrestle more in the future. On March 16th, Our scheduled date following Dalton losing custody, that's in quotes, I guess that's the angle they're doing. For the first time in our...
Did they do an angle where he had custody of the boys?
That's what it says here again, in quotes. For the first time in our history of flying in North America, previously with Sinclair, Ring of Honor, and now Tony Khan's Ring of Honor, our travel was booked out of Nashville instead of our home airport of Knoxville.
Ah.
There, at this point, there are screenshots attached to the tweets showing the communication between AEW and a redacted name that is apparently part of their travel team over at AEW.
Where were they going to? What place? What town?
I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me see if that's...
Did you just say it? It went past me?
It didn't say where they were flying to, just that they were flying... Oh, it says Ottawa.
Oh, well, you certainly can't drive there from either Nashville or Knoxville.
Yeah, no, they were going to Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So let's go back to this. On Monday, April 1st, we were contacted by management, accompanied by HR on a call, to inform us of our release due to budget cuts. At that time, we raised concerns and repeatedly questioned...
Well, wait a minute. We've jumped ahead in the story. So did they goddamn drive over to goddamn Nashville and fly out, or just say, fuck it?
Well, they don't say that exactly in their tweets here, but if you go to the actual phone calls... or the text messages, excuse me, there is there's a written record here. This show's a mess. There's too much happening. Monday, March 25th. Hey, just checking to see if we're booked this weekend so there's no confusion on our end and so we can plan our week accordingly. Thank you. The reply from AEW came, as of now, no. One of the Tates said, thank you.
Okay.
Just checking to see if you heard about us being used this weekend. There's no collision taping this weekend. You'll probably be booked for London, Ontario on the 30th. And then I guess they weren't.
There's all kinds of pieces this story. They're not making their case plain. They're assuming that everybody knows who all these people are by their first name and what was going on with them. And if they're making an official statement rebutting the reason why that they were terminated or why they were told they were terminated by a company, they need to lay this shit out a lot fucking clearer and a lot more concisely. And here's the deal. I can understand if AEW fucked up and somehow sent these guys plane tickets at the last minute, flying out of Nashville to Ottawa or wherever the fuck it was instead of Knoxville because they made a mistake. Okay, well, because you would have to get to the airport an hour before your flight, and it's 3 fucking hours or whatever. But if they just said, hey, to fly you to auxiliary players into a goddamn another country from Knoxville, Tennessee is going to cost us however many fucking $1,000, or we can fly you from Nashville for half or a third of that, which is probably a possibility, and told them about it ahead of time. It's 175 miles. It's all interstate. You can drive 3 hours and get your flight and save the company a couple $1,000. And guess what, guys? You were kind of lucky at this point that you had, if you indeed had a contract that was paying you a regular sum, whatever you were doing, you're lucky you had that in this day and age. Now, if they just are under contract and only get paid when they get booked, that should have been an incentive to drive down there to Nashville and get on the plane.
And I guess part of the issue here is just the communication between AEW and talent, because I have some more text here. Let me read you some more of these.
Here's another thing. Fuck the fucking text. If I want to know something about where I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to get there when I was in the wrestling business and gave a shit about such matters, I'm calling a motherfucker on a phone and I'm speaking to a human being and I'm saying, where is my goddamn ticket? Where am I flying out of? What time do I leave? What airline? I got to fucking pack. And all the kids are texting around back and forth like a bunch of fucking
everyone's texting. You're the only one not, so stop making it about
God
texting.
damn it. Well, that's why everybody's confused.
No, well, they're doing AEW. That's why they're confused.
Motherfucker Pit, that's why I'm saying you got some Weasley, squirrely son of a bitches over there in AEW land. Get one on the phone and pin him down verbally. See if he's shaking and shimmering or humming.
Well, let's
be assertive. Address these things. Ask questions.
Let me be assertive right now and go to this. March 13th, Brent Tate, to a name redacted. Again, release the name, guys. If you got a story here, let the story come out.
Finish the story, man.
Hey, we just received emails about driving to Nashville for flights, and we've never flown out there because it's 3 hours away.
Oh, good Lord.
We have an airport 15 minutes from us.
Oh, good Lord.
Even and then the other.
Oh, good Lord. You know what? In the old days, you'd had a car out at the curb, get in it and drive your ass 800 miles to fucking Canada. You goddamn ungrateful little twits.
The other brother then responded, even the old Ring of Honor never had us fly out of Nashville.
Oh, good. Were they flying you to Canada?
Then AEW responded, reach out to your travel person and ask them why that's happening.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, and then on the 16th, Saturday, hey, we are getting texts from people asking if we are at the venue. We told travel as soon as you told us to fix our flights, and she said she would send us new flights, and we stayed up until midnight Thursday and still haven't received anything. Brandon and I both have had our bags packed since Wednesday. Just to show you how much we were expected to be there, we already packed.
It's good that they're packed, because that way when they got fired, they were all ready to leave.
And then the response from AEW, okay, guys, I just got off the phone with travel. My understanding is that because Ottawa is a difficult airport to get in and out of,
boom,
they tried to save $800 per ticket,
boom,
by having you go out of Nashville.
Boom.
I see your point about being asked to drive 3 hours to a different airport, but did anyone specifically tell you that they were getting new flights? Excuse me, that you were getting new flights? And when you didn't have new flights, did you contact anyone to see what the situation was? Hey, listen, I know it's fun to pick on AEW. It doesn't seem like they're really in the wrong with this.
No, I could tell that a mile away what they were doing. These are not the main event guys. They're the guys that hang around with a guy and part of his gimmick. And yes, they wrestle some and fine, and I'm not knocking them, but they can't honestly look in the mirror and say, we are people who, if it was not for AEW, would still have a contract with a television promotion of any kind and at least have a check coming in, right? They'd be on the indies doing what everybody else in that situation is, which is working shots. And so when you're trying to fly somebody from goddamn Wartburg, Tennessee to fucking a small Canadian market, yes, if you go to Nashville, that's a hub and you can get cheaper flights. And I fault both sides of this because, goddamn, again, the fucking administrative side, the office side, is a disorganized mess, and nobody is telling them this specifically. And with the other guys, they're idiots that they thought that they had the fucking leverage to just blow shit off or whatever. Or if they heard they were going to get new flights, well, apparently they probably misheard. Or when they didn't get new flights, they still had 3 hours to get in a fucking car, make the show. Because you're lucky, you've been given a gift. But somebody from the talent administrative division of AEW on the office side should have called them and said to them flat out, because we did this. We used to do this. In Ring of Honor, we did this a number of times because Sinclair was tighter than his tick on fucking airplane flights. And we did it in the WWF, for fuck's sake. That's why we spent that Saturday night in Nova Scotia. You save money on these goofy flights because not only were they going to save $1,600 on these two guys just in terms of a plane ticket, they were probably doing it with some of the other talent. Maybe if somebody lived in fucking some other place where there was a smaller airport or a bigger one. Point is, somebody should have called the Tate Twins and said, hey, we're not going to spend however many $1,000 to fly you, just to fly you guys before we put you up in a hotel, before we pay you to be on this goddamn deal, or if they're paying them regular before we put you up in a hotel and we spend these thousands of dollars to have you stand outside the ring. But if you're willing to go down to Nashville, which is 3 hours down, 3 hours back in the car, we'll buy you fucking 2 tanks of gas and, and you'll save your job.
Well, once again, let me go back to the actual text messages here.
Oh, God.
One of the Tates said that a name that is redacted here, a woman for AEW, she said she would send flight options shortly. I didn't hear from her, so I texted from my phone about seats and didn't get a text back.
Texted about seats for what?
I also emailed her on Sunday or Monday about hotels and seats for the flight and didn't get an email back.
Yeah, you got her phone number, nitwit?
The other Tate jumped in.
Jack her up out of bed on Sunday morning. Where's my fucking plane ticket?
Also, the other one said here, our cars aren't in good shape also.
Oh, boy.
That's why we request rentals. I'm not sure why travel changed our airport week of without notice.
That's why we request rentals. So now they're renting them a car also?
We have flown to Canada numerous times from Knoxville, and this has never been the case.
You can get to the moon too if you got NASA behind you.
AEW responded, you had flights going from Nashville, so you were booked.
Yes.
If you had gotten a rental, you could have sent in the receipt and gotten reimbursed.
Oh, good Lord.
The flights from Knoxville were 2 stops and more expensive, which is why they tried Nashville for this trip. You guys should have at least let someone know. You, and I guess it continues from there, weren't going to come, I would assume, would be next. Can your excuse be I was sitting by the phone for the whole time, so I didn't make an attempt to come at all?
No. Because, again, it needs to be adjudicated one way or another, communicated from party to party officially before you... They're sending this poor travel woman, unnamed travel woman that was in there, texts on, do we have flight options? Can we get a car? And she's not getting back to them. Who's in talent around? Who is the booker? Who's helping the booker? Talk to the fucking talent about whatever the fuck. That person should have been on the phone with these 2 guys saying, look, you got to fly out of Nashville. It's cheaper. If they don't have cars to get 3 hours, how were they making independent wrestling shots? And how are they working for this company if they do not have, between the 2 of them, 1 car that will drive 3 hours down the interstate and they're in the wrestling business?
Yeah, by the way, this is another story because we just talked about that. What was his name? Slim J, a guy you and I are both not familiar with at all.
Yes, he was living in a hovel.
Yeah, he couldn't afford to support his family working for AEW. What's going on over there that the lower card guys...
A lot of them are making a fucking fortune.
Some of them aren't making... Some of them can't afford a car.
Here's the thing. Well, if they're in the wrestling business, you need a car and a fucking phone. And what I'm saying is they shouldn't have considered themselves important enough to just sit around and dick around and wait on the travel woman to serve their bidding. Somebody from the office should have been on the phone with them, or they should have been beating up somebody from the office's phone in the talent relations department. We want to fly to Knoxville. Leave the voicemail. We want to fly to Knoxville. We got tickets out of Nashville. What is going on? So somebody then would call back and say, look, you 2 morons, have you not figured this out? You're going to Ottawa, Canada. We're going to save $1,600 fucking dollars if the 2 of you drive 3 hours down the road and fly to Nashville. I can't believe that they are goddamn frivolous enough with their money that they would agree to rent them a car to go to Nashville. But they had said we would have done it if you'd asked, but nobody was fucking talking. They were goddamn texting and sitting around like movie stars. Because I guarantee you, when I was in the business at their particular level, I would have not have been calling Jerry Jarrett about whether I got a plane ticket if he told me to go to Hawaii. I'd have had fucking Speedos on and I'd have my nose greased up for a long swim. Fuck. So it's an incompetent office and a couple of guys that don't understand their level in the wrestling business.
Again, incompetent office, the communication's bad, and seemingly the Tates think there's an added value that justifies them requesting these things. Let me end with these tweets and I'll ask you a question.
And by the way, that was save $1,600 on the tickets. They were still going to be spending hundreds of dollars just to have them go there with Dalton fucking Cat or whatever the fuck.
They're now saying we never heard back if we were booked, and we figured since no one got back to us from travel, we weren't booked again this weekend. Also, that's why we asked if we were booked until Supercard weekend, just to avoid all this. Nashville wouldn't have been an issue for that one day, but with NCAA basketball tournament and St. Pat's Day weekend being in Nashville, last minute would have been an issue already. That's why we always reach out.
They didn't ask them to go down there and hang out for a while. They said, go fly out of there. Were they supposed they go drive three hours down the interstate and get a hotel room?
And then there was a tag, and the other brother came in and said, we did tell the mystery travel person that we couldn't do that flight. That's why she responded and told us she would send us other flight options, and that's what we were waiting for. And then there was another tag. We have also been told numerous times to get approved for rentals because they got onto us for getting rentals without asking.
What without? Oh, Jesus Christ. They were just getting rental cars and turning them into the office to go be goddamn wallpaper in this gimmick. What the fuck? Seriously?
That's not even on TV. I mean, if it's on Ring of Honor, it's never on TV.
What precedent are they setting with these other fucking guys on the cards that these guys get rental cars without even asking and just turn it in like, oh, yes, baby. Do you remember the stories I've told you about Watts' main event guys driving to fucking Oklahoma? Jesus Christ, these fucking entitled little weenies. Go ahead.
Well, to wrap it up, and again, it keeps going back and forth. You kind of get a tone of what these text messages are. But Tony Khan, people got on him for talking about budgetary reasons. We'll get into that in a minute.
That sounds pretty budgetary to me, though.
But when he said that they no-show dates and they contend that that is not, they contend that this is evidence that shows that isn't the case, what do you say? Is Tony Khan fair? Is he saying anything wrong saying they no-showed? Do you think that they're right saying that they didn't no-show, or because they didn't show up, does that constitute a no-show?
Here's the thing. I think that whatever you want to phrase it, they have been justifiably told, we don't need you guys anymore because you're a pain in the ass to deal with. And we don't need to spend this much money on you. Tony ought to apply this to a lot of people on the roster. We do not need to spend this much money on you to be on our show, and it would be just fine. And that's where this fits. And I mean, I'm sorry, but it probably ain't working out on the Twins' part either. If they, between the two of them, and I've been seeing those guys for 10 years, so they've got to be close to 30, right? If they're between the two of them, they're 30 years old, they're in the wrestling business, and neither one of them has a car that'll make it to Nashville, they've picked the wrong career choices. They need to reevaluate and maybe consider another line of employment. And if they thought that they were important enough to for the company to be spending, what would it be then, $3,000 or whatever, plus a rental car to get them to fucking wherever,
hotel,
and they're paying them some kind of salary to be released. You have to be gripped first, don't you? So to do what? And they're complaining about it. Oh, we can't get down to Nashville. Yeah, Bobby Eaton, his first 3 years in the wrestling business, at one period of time, he was making car payments on 2 used cars that wouldn't run and riding a Greyhound bus to his matches. And he didn't no-show. So fuck you. Anyway,